Hello folks, I'm here today with the Nissan X-Trail. This is the two-wheel drive ePower 204 version of the car. That gets you a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder petrol engine combined with some hybrid technology that delivers 201 brake horsepower, 330 newton meters of torque and a 0 to 60 time of 7.7 seconds. You can also get this with something called eForce. 4ORCE, eForce. It sounds like some sort of superhero rave squad from the 1990s. Basically, that's an all-wheel drive system, delivers a bit more power and obviously gives you the extra benefit of having all-wheel drive. Now the WLTP fuel economy figures for this give it a combined 45.6 mpg. You're not going to get that in the real world, but we'll talk about that in the test drive segment. Think of this as a full hybrid vehicle that you don't need to plug into anything. Because the new X-Trail comes in all sorts of different shapes, sizes and flavours, there are several different price levels available. So they start from about £33,000, but the one I'm in today is £47,000, all bar the shouting. So do bear that in mind, folks. Like, if you want to go for one of these ePower versions with lots and lots of trim, it is not a cheap car. However, you can get one from 33k. As soon as you jump into the driver's seat of the X-Trail, it feels like a big upgrade from the outgoing model. It also feels somehow a bit posher, a bit more premium than the outgoing X-Trail. And certainly a few of the sort of sins of the previous model have been corrected here. Firstly is the infotainment system. It's a huge upgrade over the older system. As you can see, you've got Apple CarPlay here, you've also got Android Auto. CarPlay is wireless, however. The standard navigation's very good, it's powered by TomTom. The menu system is straightforward enough, a little bit clunky in areas, but minor niggles rather than any major problems. The screen itself is 12.5 inches, nice and bright, nice and colourful, no issues with it whatsoever. Look at this, we've got physical knobs and dials for the air conditioning, which is fantastic. We've also got a volume knob and skip buttons for the stereo. So all boxes ticked so far, folks. Yes. Really nice bright information display here for the driver. We've also got a really bright head-up display on this one, which is about as vivid as any head-up display I think I've ever seen on a car. Steering wheel's a lovely affair. Not too many buttons, but fairly straightforward. A couple of them do take a little bit of learning, but once you're there, you're there. It's a nice thing, feels nice under the hand, nice quality leather wrapped on it. We've got down here a 12-volt socket. We've got a USB-C and a USB-A, and in this model we've also got a wireless charging pad. Very sensible little gear shifter device here, a couple of cup holders, your drive mode, and then we've got that little storage cubby there. We've also got buttons here for a full EV mode, which will last all of about 3 minutes, your automatic parking and e-pedal, which is their version of one-pedal driving. So up here, we've actually got some really nice soft stuff. This is leather wrapped. This all feels great, wonderful. Now, this here is kind of a wood grain effect plastic, which looks really good at first glance, and it feels good. However, it's an absolute fingerprint magnet. On the little gear shifter here, as you'll see from this picture, that's also a fingerprint magnet. That's like a piano black kind of affair, and that never works well when it comes to things like dust and fingerprints and everything else. So all this material feels great. Down here it feels like a little bit of a miss, but not the end of the world. I should also mention, folks, that this particular model of car has got the Bose sound system, which is an upgrade over some of the base level trims. I'm never really a fan of Bose sound systems, but in this car it actually sounds really good. Your back row passengers will be delighted in this car because there's loads of room for your feet. There's plenty of headroom, despite this one having the sunroof. You could probably be 6 foot, 6'1" in here without too many issues. You've got a nice big pocket there to put your bits and bobs in. There's a small storage bin in the door, and we've also got sun blinds on the rear windows. The weirdest thing in here by a long stretch is this armrest. Now that looks like the middle seat, which is not huge, by the way. Like 3 adults could sit in here because it's got almost no transmission tunnel, and this is a reasonable size, but it's not huge. But look at this, This is how you put the armrest down. It's actually the middle seat. So you've got your cup holders in here and another little slot there, and it's all fine. But I think if you've got your shopping in the back and you slam on the brakes, do you really want that in with your rear passengers? No, not really. Obviously this does give you that load through capability that not all cars have, but for me it feels like a little bit of an odd solution. Down here we've got the normal air vents, climate controls, we've also got another USB-C and another USB-A, and we've also got heated rear seats in this particular model. All in all, your rear passengers are going to love you. Now, despite the car having a smaller boot space than some of its rivals, it's got 575 litres, this one. You can't really have too many complaints about it. You've got this very easy to use load cover, and there's also a bit of genius here, which are these things. So the boot floor actually stands up so you can separate out your bags, particularly useful when you're doing the shopping and you want your bags to stay in place and not fall over everywhere. Really simple, not over-engineered, nothing to go wrong with it. So I like that. You can also get the car with 7 seats. It costs £1,000 more. It gives you an extra row of seats. That rear row is very, very cramped if you go for it. So bear that in mind. You don't really want young children in the back there. And if you do have all those 7 seats up, you've then got a very, very limited boot, much like you would in some of the rivals like the 𝘾𝙃𝙉𝙉𝙉𝙍𝙍. So once you get behind the wheel, you realise that it's not only the interior that feels like a big upgrade from the outgoing X-Trail, but so does the drive. Obviously the diesels have gone. We've now got these hybrid petrol cars, and generally they're very comfortable, very quiet, quite refined, although this one does have a couple of annoying rattles coming from this bit of plastic around the mirror, which is bugging me a bit. It's only got 1,200 miles on it, and we've got a rattle already, which does annoy me. However, the actual drive of it, you can't really fault. This one's got the largest wheels on, so it does crash a little bit over deep potholes, but aside from that, the suspension's really nice. Gives you plenty of comfort without being massively boaty. Now this ePower car gives you some, now this being an ePower car, it's got some of the benefits you would get with a traditional EV. Those being mainly that when you're in slow moving traffic like this, the car's absolutely as quiet as a mouse. It creeps along in complete silence and comfort. And you've also got that little boost of torque when you put your foot down on the accelerator for the first time, and that will get you from 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds, as I said before. Now, much like cars from Toyota and Honda, where they don't have a traditional gearbox anymore and they've got an eCVT, this ePower drivetrain is basically the same thing. So even though your petrol engine's running and doing most of the work, it doesn't actually power the wheels. It's the electric motor that powers the wheel, and your engine is kind of working as a generator. And that's about the most basic way I can explain it without getting way too technical and boring you too much. So what that does is actually deliver really nice smooth acceleration. However, when you really put the boot down, you're on the motorway and stuff like that, it can be a little bit drony under hard acceleration, a bit like a car with a CVT gearbox would. It's not quite as offensive as that, but it's not quite as placid as a torque converter automatic gearbox might be, or even a car with a DSG, for example. So not really a deal breaker at all, and it's a slight gripe rather than a moan. Now, where we can have a little bit of a moan is on the MPG front. It's not devastatingly bad by any means, but it's just bang average really. In the real world, you're probably going to get about 37, 38 MPG in combined driving. On a long run in the car, you can get between 42 and 44, which is not too bad considering, but it's perhaps a tiny bit underwhelming for a car that's badged as ePower. Now, the steering's really comfortable and really nicely weighted, but it's perhaps a little bit numb in as much as you can't really feel any connection between the wheels and the road. This is a very common thing on modern cars, and it's by no way sort of specific to this. Just an observation. So really don't expect to take this down twisty B roads and get a load of driving pleasure from it, but it's a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder hybrid SUV, so who in their right mind would do that anyway? Not me. So I'm just out on a 70-mile-an-hour road now. You probably hear that cabin noise has increased a bit, and just under hard acceleration there. I'm sure the mic won't have picked it up, but there's just a bit of a as I mentioned earlier. Not a big deal, and it's nowhere near as bad as you would get in a car with a CVT. And visibility in the front of this car is really good. You've got a nice big windscreen, huge door mirrors, all great. What's not so good is the visibility out the back. Back screen's not huge, and you've got some massive pillars at the back there that really block your view. Luckily, there's a very good reversing camera, so it's not too much of an issue. Previous incarnations of the X-Trail have traditionally been really popular with caravanners, and this one may be a little bit different. Certainly you need to pick and choose carefully if you are a caravanner. The one I'm sitting in right now, the 2-wheel drive ePower version, can only tow 249 kilos. If you go up to the all-wheel drive version, that, depending on the version you get, can tow up to 1,800 kilos. Just something to be aware of, folks. As we move more into hybrids and electric vehicles, you're not going to have the towing capabilities that you might have had in a diesel from years ago. And that's something that no one's particularly addressing right now. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the future on that front. So in short, folks, if you can cope with the price tag and the MPG, the X-Trail is actually a serious contender. It's not a perfect car. You do need to certainly look at some of the rivals if you're considering this kind of vehicle, but there are a number of people that this is just going to suit down to the ground. It goes about its business with minimal fuss. Everything's fairly straightforward, and although it doesn't particularly excel in any one area, it doesn't really let you down in any one area either, which you can't say about all of its rivals. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, folks. Please give the video a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Now, folks, if you're in the market for a big hybrid SUV, go and check out my review of the Toyota RAV4 over there. Thanks.